All right. There we go. Okay. Link is posted in AMA archive for the YouTube stream. But here in Discord, welcome, welcome. Come on down to AMA chat. Yes, COV, I will address that. So, just for those who are joining for the first time, in general, I have different things I go through in terms of what's been going on the past couple weeks. And then, of course, I answer your questions to the best of my ability, both the ones that you post in AMA chat as well as the ones that have been posted in the AMA questions Discord area as well. So, let me see here. The first thing I wanted to say is to please remember to keep an eye on the community notes section under the ecosystem section of Discord, because while we may not be making large scale announcements, we are releasing community notes to help keep you involved on our building process, and those are not tagging people unless you opt into them. So please be sure to check out community notes to stay up to date on those. So yes, COV just asked, hi, I'm wondering when I will be able to add to a concentrated liquidity pool again. I have been trying the WMATIC USDT pool and it keeps telling me to try again. Yes, so currently the concentrated liquidity positions are still paused. Coffee fee? Okay, coffee fee. Thank you for that. So the concentrated liquidity positions are still paused to ensure the security of those funds. So the last thing that we want to happen is to unpause those vaults and then have those assets be exploited. And I know that's the last thing that you would want too. So I recognize that it can be frustrating to have your assets paused in the vaults and to not be able to deposit into these vaults, but that pausing is done out of caution, and so we are working to have those vaults fully functional as soon as possible. So for example, you're welcome, while the Uniswap concentrated liquidity vaults were not directly involved in the Chronos concentrated liquidity exploit, we are still having them paused out of caution. Good question. All right, so next up, Sphere's Q4 2023 Treasury Report is on course to be released within the next week or two. And if you have been following the community notes, like I mentioned, we have worked on and released some minor updates to Dyson with version 2.1.2. So basically, the way it works whenever we are pushing through these updates is once these updates are ready, our quality testing, quality analysis team will conduct the necessary checks before then updating the live version. So then with Dyson 2.1.2, these updates include some minor visual bug fixes with the tables, filters, pagination, as well as filters. So that update has also included a new feature with the paused label, again to signify the pools whose interaction is currently disabled, most notably the concentrated liquidity vaults, as well as we've been updating the API helper service for fetching prices on Dyson's API. And Just to note, the updating of the Dyson API has been a very time-intensive process, but it will ultimately lead to more efficient integration with other ecosystem components in the future, which is why it is viewed as necessary in our workflow. Currently, we're also working on integrations from Prion to standardize features and stability between ecosystem dApps, as well as fixing various bugs on the Dyson API for improved uptime and failure handling. So again, with the whole Dyson API, it's one of those things where on the surface, not much is going on because it really doesn't affect that much. But on the back end, it makes a big difference. And it's something that will help improve our efficiency, ability to integrate and synergize Dyson and Prion and Sphere Lend, and all of those things in the future. So it is well worth the time intensive work that it has required, but that does mean that it takes a lot of time. Some other things to mention is that we are also working on updating Sphere's ecosystem roadmap, which a lot of you have mentioned and discussed and talked about. We are aware it needs updating, as well as the website. Welcome, T1. Just covered a little bit so far about the importance of community notes, the concentrated liquidity vaults being paused still, the Q4 2023 Treasury report on course to be released within the next week or two, and then Dyson's version 2.1.2 updates. Yes, sir. All right. I do apologize. I am mildly sick yet again. I can feel it in my throat. Overall, it's not too bad, but it's definitely there. So please bear with me. Alrighty. In general, the next thing I did want to say is that we do have a path forward for what we're looking to accomplish in the future with Sphere, things that we've talked about many different times, and we're very excited for when we will finally be able to begin showing it all to you. Yeah, T1, the sore throat definitely seems to be going around recently. Excuse me. I was actually doing pretty good all day, and then suddenly things are turning down, but that's okay. Let's push through. Poker tournaments, guys, are back. So check out the community events section of the Discord for information on how to join, including new participation requirements. And remember that you are playing for a chance to win prizes. So this is back by popular demand, and we are happy to bring it back. All right. Which brings us into our questions. Looks like I have 3 main questions from the AMA questions over the past couple weeks. First is from J Rogue. Are Sphere tokens still being burned on taxes? I think also at one time Dyson and Prion were burning Sphere. And Mad Mike Delta, thank you for responding. No more taxes, which is correct. So there are no more buy, sell, or transfer taxes for Sphere. These have been completely removed from Sphere, and it's been that way for about a year at this point. So we made that transition from a focus on deflation to a focus on real yield, where ecosystem revenue is funneled to Sphere stakers, currently as YL Sphere. And there are several reasons for that. In part, the dynamic and changing needs of the DeFi landscape. And this shift has allowed us to consistently provide sustainable blue chip yield primarily in the form of Wmatic, 2 YL sphere stakers on Dyson. And as many of you have probably or hopefully noticed over the past several weeks, although the price of Sphere has been painful, to say the least, you'll notice that the YL Sphere rewards are able to compensate for that in such that when the price of Sphere drops, the APR actually increases relative to that. So that is a way that we were able to offer those sustainable blue chip yields. All right, next question is from Cactus, and I believe Cactus had this question answered in the chats as I was looking through, but do want to mention it again, which is, when will the next monthly report come out? I would love to see what the new unannounced project is and what the team has been developing for the past couple months. I miss the old days full of alpha. So we did actually have our December report last month, and then our January report is very close to being done. So please feel free to check out that December report. And then, as I mentioned, this month's report should be out soon. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have a path forward for what we're looking to accomplish with the future of Sphere. And it's going to be exciting when we are able to begin showing it all to you. All right. And then the last question I had, pretty short week or couple of weeks this time, but from Niftmos, which is, I think that 20 minutes out of Sim's time is very important to give to the community to restore some confidence in the project. This 20 minutes will not prevent Sim from developing. So we've touched on this before, but I'll dive into this topic again. I do recognize, and there's a Tangzon, where is Sim? Is he still around? Why so little Sim? So I recognize and understand the desire to hear directly from Sim, as that was a very common occurrence during the end of last bull cycle, and was frequently associated with alpha, new releases, and just generally good vibes and excitement for the future of Sphere. Nice voice crack there. Sim is still actively involved in Sphere. He has not gone anywhere, and his AI brain is still working at many levels above mine. But as a whole, Sphere is trying to move away from focusing on any one person and is instead shifting its focus to Sphere as a whole. So if you think about other DeFi projects, the same is generally true, right? The focus is on the project itself and not on any one person. And that is our goal with Sphere as well. Sim is like a juggler. He he has many things to work on and get through and balance, and we want him to be able to focus on that. Beyond that, as I mentioned, it's more also about helping shift the focus to Sphere as a whole, as a project, right? Versus as a person, because it's frankly not fair to Sim to have that type of pressure and focus on him when in reality it is Sphere as a whole. Tomorrow my Sphere gets unlocked. Still, there is no V3 around the corner. If I want to keep my Sphere and also earn something, it's locking. That is the option. Correct, I can't give financial advice, of course, but Right now, yes, while Sphere is the primary means of earning yield from the ecosystem. What I will say is we are, Sphere v3 is still down the road, and once we get to that point, there will very likely be mechanisms by which you can transition into Sphere v3. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. And certainly, as that time is approaching, we'll be able to give more information on that. I still see some folks. How far out is V3 estimate? Unfortunately, the nothing. I cannot give when answers. I can't answer when questions. So locked in YL Sphere will probably be able to transfer to V3 anyway, most likely. But again, as that draws nearer and becomes more relevant, then we can certainly bring up that discussion again. But as for now, YL Sphere is the primary means. Still see you guys typing, so it's very good. Just waiting on some questions in the AMA chat on Discord. Tangzong, what's the next step for Sphere now, or many things in the works? Right, there are several different things in the works from a more global overview. Things like Prion updates, such as the Phase 2 launch of Prion with the Prion token, the new tokenomics and incentives for Star, continuing integrations with Dyson and Prion. We have Sphere Lend as well, and other things in the pipeline that we have in the works. Din, seems like a reasonable question. There's no target from the team. Correct. We do not want to give out any specific target because things happen. Some things that we can prepare for and some things that we can't prepare for. Any questions? Okay, will Bernie and other burning be back? I would say that point is still up for discussion in terms of how we are able to, how and if we're able to integrate that into the updated Sphere tokenomics. Remember, Tangzon, that the overall shift has gone from deflation to real yield. And there's many different reasons for that. All right, let me jump over to AMA questions because I see Aglavale. Responding to the Question about Sim. I agree. I know they don't want Sphere, not all in Sim's back, but a lot of us invested in Sim, which in turn was investing in Sphere. If you could show up to an AMA every so often, it would be enough. A solid roadmap update would be nice also. Yeah, hear you about Sim, and definitely something that is understood within the team. And then with respect to the solid roadmap update, that is something that we are actively working on. So no deflation anymore. Sorry for many new questions. Hasn't been active for a while. No worries. All questions are welcome. So technically, the thing about deflation is that Sphere is still considered a deflationary asset because there is a fixed total supply at this point. So in that way, it is not inflationary, therefore it is deflationary. But in terms of, is there an active focus and effort on deflating the token supply, to that the current answer is no. The focus is instead on using that very same revenue to actually provide yield for staked Spherians. Is Sphere still benefiting from other projects in the ecosystem? Yes, certainly. Prion, Dyson. Jumpman, why should I buy Sphere and why is that a good investment? What is being built? And is there a timeline? Been here since week one, but a lot has changed. Just a quick rundown with some freaking hype behind it. Please, need to get jacked for a DCA buy and lock. Well, I feel like that's bordering a bit on investment advice, but the what I can say is that the vision of Sphere has not changed. Um, the love investment advice. Good, good. The vision of Sphere has not changed. The goal of Sphere is still to create and tailor a synergistic, interconnected ecosystem that together creates a lot of efficiencies that are otherwise very difficult to obtain if using external protocols and projects. And with that ecosystem built, ecosystem revenue, treasury revenue can then funnel through to the center, which is Sphere. So, as you can imagine, building out one project takes time, building out an entire ecosystem of projects takes a whole lot more time, especially when you are trying to make sure that everything integrates, interlocks together efficiently and effectively. Tangzong, is Dist and Pen still active tokens? They are still active tokens. Um, Penrose is Sphere's project, and for all intents and purposes is in a relative hibernation mode, as we are kind of on hold waiting for the Dystopia team to update Dystopia, at which point we will be at a position to update Penrose. Near future, what does the ecosystem plan to look like? Now the distant pen are paused. Well, primarily I'd point towards Dyson and Prion, like I've mentioned. Um, those are active. Those have a lot of synergies that are being developed, and those are two very core parts of the ecosystem, especially the Star stablecoin. Oligorn, is there any incentive to get listed in any centralized exchange, and is it possible? There is not really any great incentive to do that. This has been something that we've talked about multiple times in the past, but always good to bring it up again. So to get listed on a centralized exchange, in general, the project itself has to provide that liquidity. So that means we would have to allocate resources to do so, and getting listed on a centralized exchange does not necessarily guarantee anything, right? Beyond that, Sphere's focus is on decentralized finance. So it's not necessarily a step that we view as valuable to the ecosystem vision as a whole. And it's also not necessarily economically the best step forward. Tangs on, if Matic goes up, is that bullish for Sphere? Absolutely. A very good amount of the treasury yield farming occurs with Matic. Beyond that, the Sphere token is paired with Matic. So if Matic goes up, then the price of Sphere goes up. If Matic goes down, then the price of Sphere goes down, regardless of Sphere buying and selling. So yes, absolutely. Is our treasury healthy right now? It is. Jumpman, have you taken a look through the Q1 through Q3 treasury report? If you have not, I'd highly encourage you to do so. And as I mentioned a bit earlier, yeah, but not Q4. Okay, so yeah, the Q4 2023 treasury report should be ready within the next week or two per Rux. So then we will have a better breakdown with that. Still a lot of folks typing, so I'll give you an opportunity to get your questions out. What is your price prediction for Sphere in 2025? Definitely not going to touch that one. Sorry. Tangs on, dropping some clever gifts. All right, and still some folks typing. I'll continue to give you guys some time. Oof, there's the question. Do you have any plans on making a new song about Dyson or Sphere? Not at this time. I gotta say, not at this time. that random spark of inspiration has to be there, which did occur for Shion. Oh, that was fun. Aglavale, looking at the sphere chart, how's the team plan to bring in new investors? What's the investment prices and everything? But other than the inflationary period where we went almost to 12 cents, there really hasn't been any uptrend. I've been holding since day one, but we need more than day one holders. For sure. I mean, obviously, I can point towards the market conditions where we really launched at the start of the bear market. So there was the initial hype of the project with that kind of final push of liquidity, and then everything went downwards in the market. But beyond that as well is just we are very early. Oh no, I follow for sure. I just always had to point that out. But um, in general, we're still very early on Sphere's trajectory, and I'm gonna use the clock analogy because it's just the most effective, I think. All these little cogs are being built, and the mechanisms behind the cogs are being built, which people can't see. So for new people coming in, it just looks like a kind of dysfunctional, kind of dismantled wannabe clock, right? But that's where all clocks have to start until they finally are built into fully functioning and integrated clocks. So that vision is still there. We're still building and growing and working towards that vision. It just takes a long time. And I think one of the hard things has been for people the amount of time that that's taking. And one of the hard things for us has been being ready to release some of those cogs and then getting hit with some catastrophic market events or partnerships that fall flat. So there's been a lot of that leading up to now. Um, so a lot of us are looking forward to that time when things more easily fall into place and can be released on a more streamlined schedule and manner. And so I guess ultimately to get to your point, what are we doing for bringing in new investors is we're continuing to build and grow out the ecosystem so that when those new investors come, they can see it as the singular cohesive ecosystem that we want it to be. How can the community build projects alongside to support so we aren't just sitting around waiting for sim and team, but instead creating value together for the ecosystem? That's a really good question. Trying to think. I think there's kind of three ways that you could go about approaching that. Um, the first would be to open a support ticket and check in with the team directly. The second would be to go through the hiring on the Sphere website to see if there's a job or role that potentially you could participate in. And then the third would be through the ideas or suggestions to see if collaboratively the you and the community can come up with something. Really good question. Quite intriguing. How many people are working full time at the team at the moment, and how many people are in the team total? I actually don't have the specific numbers for you. I do apologize. I can say overall we are a relatively small team, so that is something to consider. And I mean, actually, if you take a look on the side, you can see that there are 15 of us within Discord itself. So that gives you some of an idea there. Tangzong, yeah, Chopin. Sim actually said a long time ago in an AMA that he will keep building until Sphere is $1. Maybe just a random number said when Sphere price seeing still good inflows from the end of the last bull run, but who knows? No one knows an answer to that or can give anything more than a pure guess. Right. I think I think it's important to read between the lines there in that what Sim was trying to say is that we're going to keep building, whether the price is at an all-time low or at an all-time high, we still are going to be growing the ecosystem and enhancing the vision of Sphere that we want to create and bring forward. F for right. Oh man, I'm sorry to butcher your name. Is to burn Sphere still part of the plan or not? ATM. It is not at the moment. So about a year or so ago, Sphere transitioned its focus from using ecosystem revenue to deflate token supply and instead transitioned over to using that revenue to provide real yield for Spherians. So that is the primary focus. Whether you're burning or providing yield, you still have to use revenue from somewhere to do that. And as a whole, providing real yield is more sustainable. And there's multiple factors that go into why. Yes, sir. One sphere ETF. I did see that T1, unfortunately, slightly off topic, but acceptable. Ripple hacked. No bueno. Can we set up early unlock fees, penalties to buy and burn? There's lots of different mechanisms by which we could integrate burning mechanisms. Again, the question more comes down to how, if we were to introduce something like that, why is it a better reason? Like, why is it better to burn versus, again, using that to further enhance the yield for users? I thought it was relevant. It's okay. In some ways, it's relevant, right? Like any type of negative news about crypto can affect all of crypto, right? Oh man, several people are typing. Wow. T1 sparked some conversations with the Ripple posts. T1 pretty sure vSphere is meant to have that feature. If you decide to vest your vSphere to convert it into Sphere and you do it for a shorter period of time, portion of the vSphere would be burnt. That was the idea for vSphere. It ultimately depends on the final version of the staking upgrades to Sphere. Oh, yeah, thanks, Vandu. Right, so Ralph points out one of the reasons of using for using ecosystem revenue for yield versus burning, which is that burning is a means of providing exit liquidity to people leaving Sphere versus putting that money towards people who are actually committed to the long-term uh, vision of the project, those who are staking Sphere, right? Because if everything goes into burning Sphere and the price is appreciating, what's the only way you can actually realize that appreciation? You have to sell, right? Yeah, Degens in chat think burning is a magic money maker. I know. We're well aware. But we are not swayed by that, or we do our best to not be swayed by that. We really have to think about what is the most sustainable for the long term, um, and that very simply points to actually providing yield to those dedicated to the project. Right, locked would actually get wrecked with pure. Like, imagine you could lock your sphere for, I don't know, let's say 1% of the revenue from the ecosystem, and then 99% of the revenue went to burns. It just wouldn't make sense, right? And then, the other argument we see is that, well, just a little bit of burning will help provide price appreciation over time, but there's still that point of, well, it's really more about the yield that people can obtain versus the price appreciation, because with enough yield revenue, that alone increases or can increase the perception of Sphere as something worth holding on to and staking. Not really a question, but an opinion. Aglavale, some kind of change to the tokenomics is needed in the near future. I don't want to leave this project. There's so many great ideas, but something needs to happen. No worries. No worries. I see your opinion, and our answer is yes. Oh, look, man, I haven't seen that GIF in a long time, Ralph. My goodness. See, now the problem is, though, we got to change Sim to Sphere, right? Side note, Jumpman, on the community building, if Sphere incentivized community to help build, the cost of these platforms go on the community members building it as well, and if it gets taken off Sphere's monthly debt expense, more to the treasury. Lots of devs here, I'm sure, just wondering what they can build up, support, and make themselves money in the process. Yeah, it's a really interesting thought and concept. Um, I can't make monetary decisions. It's not my role within Sphere, of course. So I wouldn't be able to say if that would be worth the expense or not. But I think it's a pretty cool idea. So I think those three ways I mentioned, like submitting a ticket to talk about, or opening a topic in the ideas section to see what else the community can come up with, what you and the community can come up with, or going to the Sphere page and seeing if a position fits what your capabilities and interests, to actually join the team. I think those would be the three different ways to approach expanding into that, Jumpman. It's a cool topic, cool concept. Pricey D1 got your sore throats because you probably didn't wash your hands. Man, coming out with the jabs, throwing us under the bus. I see how it is. No, I wash my hands all the time, but I do have a toddler, so she, you know, toddlers bring home germs. Yeah. If yeah, I've gone to pick her up before and just get a full on cough right into my mouth, and there's just nothing I can do but just accept it. And so it is what it is. It's fine, just helping continue to build my immunity, right? Oh, don't worry, Jump Man. Plenty of times. Plenty of times. All right. Have we sufficiently derailed, or you guys have any additional questions about Sphere, the ecosystem, Prion, Dyson, my sore throat? When everyone deserves a good solid Thune. Can we create an updated PDF file of the whole ecosystem and how Sphere benefits from it? Interesting. Hmm, potentially. It's not a bad idea. We used to have one. I remember Jesse going over it in his video on sticky notes. Yeah, gotta love Jesse's sticky notes. I'll have to think on that, and pass it by the team of what we could potentially do for that. In line with that, I mentioned we're working on updating the roadmap as well as the website. So perhaps something within that, we could see how we could go about that. What is your personal time horizon on the project to succeed? Onboarding the masses. I feel like that's not a question I can appropriately answer. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, I see an AMA question. Hold on. Never mind. It was the same question, just double pinging. What's it like in Sim's basement? Ask Weaver. All right, fam. A couple more questions here, and then we will close off for this AMA. Oh yes, thank you, Pandu. It is less than 2 hours to the turn of the epoch, so please leverage or use your voting power on any platforms that you have that. Also, be sure to check in on your Wildsphere unlocks if anything is being unlocked this epoch. Be sure to either withdraw it or relock it. John Bannock, I'm gonna go. Appreciate you. Check on that sphere. Some graphic would help me for reals. I think a lot of members. You are welcome, and thanks for all the great feedback. Wait, less than 40 minutes, really? Do I have my times off? Oh dear. Oh, it's because of the time change. Sorry to mislead. Less than 40 minutes. Thank you, Pandu. Why do epochs start on Thursday midnight and not on any other day? I have absolutely no idea what you want. I really don't. Yeah, you did an amazing job, Bryce. Thanks. Well, thank you. Hopefully I was helpful, was able to answer your questions, and appreciate you coming to the AMA and participating and engaging. All right, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. So, if you do think of any other questions, be sure to drop it in the AMA questions, or you can ask us in any of the main chats. One of us will be happy to help. We also have awesome community members who are always in the chats answering questions and engaging with others. So, never feel ashamed or afraid to ask questions. We will be happy to help. Thanks everyone for joining in on Discord and on YouTube, and we will see you all next time. Until then, of course, always remember that you matter for who you are, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye bye.